Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Austin Perry Show. I'm your host, Austin Perry, and today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, and this is episode 22 of the Austin Perry Show, where we talk about current events, politics, culture, and news. And I hope I can bring you a smile and a laugh. And folks, I would encourage you to visit my website, which is austinperry.org. That's spelled P-A-R-Y. And if you would like to find my video content, you can do so on the social media platforms Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. Just search Austin Perry Show. And if you would like to leave me a donation to support my video content into the future, and if you think that I'm doing a good job bringing you the truth, then you can leave me a donation via PayPal, and my email address for that is austin.perry@gmail.com. And folks, let's go ahead and get into the news now. I have a few articles and bits of information that I have printed up from the internet to talk to you about and to discuss and to analyze. And the first article that we have here is from www.nbcnews.com. Space aliens are breeding with humans, university instructor says. Scientists say otherwise. Well, which scientist are you talking about? There's a lot of scientists that would agree with that statement. Space aliens are breeding with humans. And so here we have it, NBCnews.com, document cam shot. There you go. You can read the title of the article there at the top in white bold lettering. There's a nice image of people walking. And let's go ahead and read this article here from NBC News. Maybe you've never seen any space aliens, but recent polls indicate that up to 6% of Americans claim to have been abducted by them. The experience doesn't sound pleasant. The extraterrestrials are often said to take their captives into their saucers, lay them out on a table, and extract sperm from the men and impregnate the women. Wow. If you're familiar with UFO lore, you know there are a couple of common explanations for these breeding experiments. One is that the aliens are in a reproductive bind on their home world. They can no longer successfully procreate and so have come to Earth to use humans as incubators to spawn alien offspring. The other is that the aliens are producing hybrid beings that will somehow help to take over our planet. Well, I think both could possibly be true. They probably are definitely using humans for experiments, and I wouldn't be surprised if aliens are abducting humans just to conduct different experiments, to conduct biological and anatomical experiments, and just to gather data, and just to try out different medical procedures, things like that, things of that nature. And as far as them losing the ability to produce their own offspring, I mean, it could potentially be the case because a very advanced alien civilization has probably integrated itself with technology to such an extent that it might not even reproduce in a natural way anymore. And for instance, I know that English bulldogs, the breed of dog, can't even have their own natural birth. They have to have a cesarean section because of humans breeding them to have certain physical characteristics, and so as a result of that, English bulldogs can't even have natural birth. They have to have a cesarean section, and so it's really just humans carrying on the breed by getting cesarean sections to have their puppies. And so that could be the case where potentially the aliens have been altered to such an extent they can't even have their own natural birth anymore, and so they're maybe experimenting with humans, seeing if they can breed with humans, seeing if they can use our biological makeup to replicate having their own offspring. It's definitely possible, and I think it's probably going on. Let's continue reading here. Scientists, of course, are dubious of such claims. After all, there's never been any good evidence that the abductions are taking place. No one ever seems to bring along a cell phone to take photos or to pocket an artifact from the saucers. Well, that is debatable as well. There have been several images and videos that are out there that are alleged alien encounters. There are also different artifacts, so to speak, of alien technology So do your research, look into it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I encourage you to research these topics and see what you think for yourself, folks. Let's continue on to the next page here. Of course, human-alien hybrids, no matter how well adapted to a warmer world, don't address the crux of the climate change problem. Even unimproved humans can handle hotter temperatures. After all, they already live in a plethora of steamy environments, including the Congo, Amazonia, or downtown Tuscan. Rising sea levels could be dealt with too by building dikes along the seaboards and riding off Miami Beach. But it's the other inhabitants of this planet that are problematic, crops and critters that will either migrate towards the poles or disappear altogether. These, after all, are essential to both our environment and our food supply. Does the Oxford instructor presume that these other earthly residences are also being re-engineered by the aliens? Well, I think that's totally possible. They're saying that potentially aliens are breeding with humans to withstand climate change and global warming that is potentially happening here on Earth. And that is a possibility. They might be trying to breed a more hardy, a more resilient breed of humanoid alien. And as far as global warming, I think that if aliens are manipulating humans to such an extent that they're abducting us and conducting scientific experiments on us, they probably have the ability to geoengineer or to terraform. And so I wouldn't really think that global warming or climate change would be an issue or a concern or a problem for the aliens that are allegedly abducting people and conducting experiments on them. And so that is very interesting, very thought-provoking, food for thought, soup for the brain. And there you have it, folks. NBCnews.com, space aliens are breeding with humans, university instructor says. And that's just more alien news. And it seems like we're being bombarded with it. What are they preparing us for? Are they getting us ready for something? Possibly an alien invasion? Maybe a staged alien invasion? I don't know. It could be a Bluebeam scenario. Project Bluebeam. Look into it. Check that out. And so, lots of questions. And so, you only get so many answers in these articles, and they only make you ask 10 more questions for each answer that you get. So, let's go ahead and move on now to the next article. And this comes from nationalfile.com. He's back. Trump will resume MAGA rallies in May. Will announce 2024 decision after midterm elections. This is reported on from nationalfile.com. Let's get a document cam shot on this one. National File. And going down there, you can see the title of the article right there. He's back. Trump will resume MAGA rallies. Will announce 2024 decision. So, potentially Trump could be running again. He has not ruled it out. It seems like he's still tossing around the idea in his head. And let's go ahead and read a little bit here. The 45th President Make America Great Again rallies are set to resume as early as next week, with those close to the President Donald Trump telling the media that he will hit the campaign trail on behalf of candidates he's endorsed as early as May of this year, according to the Daily Mail. So, President Trump could be back on the road. He could be touring again, doing rallies all around the country. That would be very interesting to see. President Trump noted that despite a concerned media attempt to mar his reputation among voters, his approval numbers have been very high, and nobody's seen anything more positive. President Trump received an overwhelming 55% of the vote in a recent CPAC 2021 straw poll, with only potential challenger Florida Governor Ron DeSantis receiving double digits at 21%. Mike Pence, floated by prominent members of the establishment as a potential frontrunner in 2024, only received 1% of the vote. Who would vote for Pence, honestly? Get out of here, Pence. Nobody wants you anymore. Especially not as a president or vice president. Go home. This has apparently fueled his numerous endorsements and his desire to get back on the campaign trail with his characteristic Make America Great Again rallies. So, it seems that DeSantis might even be getting higher polling numbers according to the CPAC straw poll. But I don't think that DeSantis has the wow factor or the likability or the following that President Trump has to potentially win the 2024 election. If you look at Twitter or other social media platforms, I think DeSantis has around like 3 million Twitter followers. And before Trump was completely banned off Twitter, he had like 85 million Twitter followers. Now, I'm not saying that's the end-all be-all comparison, but I'm saying that's a very good indicator for the popularity of the politically active minds of America. And so I think President Trump really is the front runner when it comes to who would run against Biden in 2024. Potentially Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, potentially Ted Cruz from Texas, potentially a Rand Paul, potentially a DeSantis. Those are all also strong candidates, potentially a Matt Gaetz. Those are all very strong candidates, but I think Trump really is still the front runner for the right-wing candidate of choice for the 2024 presidential election. I would myself actually like to see Roger Stone run or even Alex Jones run for president. I would definitely vote for them. And let's continue reading here. Speaking with podcast host Dan Bongino, President Trump insisted that his post-White House life is still very political and seemed to suggest he has not left the political arena. It's a different kind of life, but still very political because of the endorsements. Everyone comes and they've all want the endorsement. More than they've ever wanted an endorsement, says President Trump. It's never been an endorsement that's meant so much, which is an honor to me, he added. It means victory. President Trump then revealed that the famously enthusiastic Make America Great Again rallies will return as soon as next month, stating that they will first be aimed at securing the midterm election for candidates he has endorsed. It will definitely be different in terms of the setup, but we got really good at planning these events in 2020. So we will probably use a lot of the same vendors again, a person close to President Donald Trump reportedly told national media. The 45th president also revealed that he would make a formal announcement about his decision whether to run for president a third time in 2024, soon after the 2022 midterms conclude. I think probably the most appropriate time would be right after the 2022 election. That's my opinion. Could do it sooner, but I think right after the election would be good, especially if you have a good election, President Trump explained. So, there you have it, folks. He was on Dan Bongino's show and said that his rallies are coming back soon and he will potentially announce his candidacy for president for 2024. So there you have it from nationalfile.com. He's back. Trump is back. Did he ever leave? I don't think so. He just kind of went a little bit quiet on us there and went to Mar-a-Lago for a little bit, but I think he was working on strategic plans, and it's just like in the book Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, and he said, whenever you have a strategic advantage, make it seem like you are actually weak. And so maybe that's the game plan that Trump is following. I don't know. That's neither confirmed or denied, but that's very interesting and very thought-provoking. And so that was from, once again, nationalfile.com. Document cam shot one more time on this one. And let's go ahead and move on to the third and final article that I have for tonight. And what we have here is from wikipedia.com, and this is autonomous underwater vehicles. AUVs. There you have it, Wikipedia. You can see the title at the top there. AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles. You've probably heard of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, but you haven't heard of UUVs, unmanned underwater vehicles. Maybe you have, but most likely probably not, because it doesn't get talked about very often, and a lot of people don't know about this stuff. But it's very important. They have several, in the hundreds, arguably, debatably, maybe in the thousands, maybe in the tens of thousands of these UUVs, which are basically small submarines. They're about 20 feet long, about 5 feet in diameter, metal tube, fully autonomous, has a propeller in the back, could be weaponized. Most of them aren't. I'm sure that they have built some prototypes in the military that are weaponized UUVs, which is unmanned undersea vehicle, or unmanned underwater vehicle, or AUV, autonomous underwater vehicle. And so these are ran by AI. They're not piloted by remote control, or they're not piloted by a man. So they're completely ran by artificial intelligence. And so you can't beam a signal through the ocean water. So it would have to reach the surface and then reach an antenna above the surface of the water, and then you would be able to control it remotely. But there is no way to beam a radio signal through hundreds of feet of ocean water. And so they have to be completely autonomous. And so there's an onboard artificial intelligence computer that is piloting these UUVs. And some of these are small, on the smaller side, like I said, about 20 feet by about 5 feet in diameter, metal tube. Or they're much larger, and they could potentially have nuclear weapons on board. They could potentially have unmanned underwater vehicles, completely autonomous, with no people on board. You can't reach it by radio signal because it's under salt water. So it's completely autonomous, and they can build these things large, and they can put payloads on them. They can put missiles, they can put torpedoes, and they can put nuclear missiles also. It's completely doable. So let's go ahead and read this here. An autonomous underwater vehicle, AUV, is a robot that travels underwater without requiring input from an operator. AUVs constitute part of a larger group of undersea systems known as unmanned underwater vehicles, a classification that includes non-autonomous remotely operated underwater vehicles, ROVs, controlled and powered from the surface by an operator pilot via an umbilical, that's a cord, or using a remote control. In military applications, an AUV is more often referred to as an unmanned undersea vehicle, UUV. Underwater gliders are a subclass of AUV. So there you have it. It says it has to use an umbilical cord. So it needs a cord if it's, probably like the top layers of the water, like if it's only 5 feet underwater, maybe if it's only 10 feet underwater, it might be able to reach it with like a weak radio signal if it's got like a very powerful transmitter. But in most cases, if it's going down, 5, 10, 15 feet, then it's completely out of contact, and it needs an umbilical cord to be able to operate it remotely. And you're going to need a really long cord if you want to go any amount of distance. And so there you have it. According to Wikipedia, they're mostly completely autonomous with onboard artificial intelligence computers. And let's read the next page here. The first AUV was developed by Applied Physics Laboratory at the University of Washington as early as 1957 by Stan Murphy, Bob Francis, and later on Terry Ewart. The Special Purpose Underwater Research Vehicle, or SPURV, was used to study diffusion, acoustic transmission, and submarine wakes. Other early AUVs were developed at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the 1970s. One of these is on display at the Hart Nautical Gallery in MIT. At the same time, AUVs were also developed in the Soviet Union, although this was not commonly known until much later. Until recently, AUVs have been used for a limited number of tasks dictated by the technology available. With the development of more advanced processing capabilities and high-yield power supplies, AUVs are now being used for more and more tasks with roles and missions constantly evolving. The oil and gas industry uses AUVs to make detailed maps of the seafloor before they start building subsea infrastructure. Pipelines and subsea completions can be installed in the most cost-effective manner with minimum disruption to the environment. Scientists use AUVs to study lakes, the ocean, and the ocean floor. A variety of sensors can be affixed to the AUVs to measure the concentration of various elements or compounds, the absorption or reflection of light, and the presence of microscopic life. Examples include conductivity temperature depth sensors, CDTs, fluorometers, and pH sensors. Additionally, AUVs can be configured as tow vehicles to deliver customized sensor packages to specific locations. Wow, so this is extremely interesting. They are using these AUVs for a multitude of purposes. And they're trying to tell you that they only are being used to carry around instrumentation and different sensors, and they're using them as underwater tow vehicles, but in actuality, they can very easily put weapons on these AUVs, and I'm pretty sure that they already have, at least for different prototype models that they've built. And so there you have it, and here is a very cool picture of one of the AUVs right here. Let's get a dot cam shot on this. There you have one of the AUVs. It's basically just like a small underwater submarine, small metal tube there with a propeller on the back, and it's got a bunch of instrumentation and sensors. And there is another photograph of a different AUV on the other page. Let me show you that photo. There you can see one of the AUVs being lowered into the water. Looks like a torpedo. It's basically just a small submarine. And there's a picture of another one, a black one. And so, not only are there unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, which a lot of you already know about, there are also unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUVs. So this is from wikipedia.com, or I'm sorry, wikipedia.org, and very interesting, very thought-provoking. So look into it, do your own research on this, folks. And that concludes tonight's episode of the Austin Perry Show, which today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, and this was episode 22. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and watching and sharing the analysis and the discussion with me tonight. And folks, please visit my website, which is austinperry.org, and that's P-A-R-R-Y. And if you would like to leave me a donation to support my video content into the future, and if you think that I'm doing a good job bringing you the news and telling you the truth, then you can please leave me a donation. It is austin.perry@gmail.com is my email address, and you can leave me a donation via PayPal. And that is it for tonight. I will see you tomorrow night for episode 23, and we will have a guest tomorrow night, and it will be the resident alien expert, Carlos Campbell. Shout out to Carlos. He will be on the show tomorrow. We will be discussing aliens and extraterrestrials, among other things, so you're definitely going to want to tune in for tomorrow's episode, which will be episode 23. So everyone, thank you so much. Have a great night. Love and peace, and goodbye.